known as the poet of the common man, 73-year-old Merle Haggard remains one of the most influential artists in country.
When the cold hands of death snatched Merle Haggard's life, many fans grieved. Yet death was not the end. His music lives on. His legacy speaks. But what's most surprising is his ranch. While insignificant during his lifetime, the ranch has now garnered attention because of a shocking discovery. What was found inside Merle Haggard's ranch? The answer will leave you speechless. The famous ranch.
Place of significance in his life. Initially encompassing 900 acres, the property featured various dwellings.
Merle Haggard passed away on the 6th of April, 2016. This happened to be the same day he turned 79. At the time, he had amassed a considerable amount of wealth and property. His run from being a young boy in Allendale to being a successful, financially buoyant country artist made a stellar grace to Grace's story. Several media outlets have debated Merle's net worth. Some estimates claim the figure borders around $40 million. Others think that it is $45 million instead. These varying figures are primarily a result of the inconsistencies in valuing real estate, music royalties, and other assets or sources of income for the artist. Through the course of his career, Merle sold more than 70 million records. This generated royalty income that continues to benefit his family and his estate. Merle portrayed a smart business sense by investing in real estate and placing his earnings from touring and music in places that earned profit. Popularly recognized as one of country music's most talented songwriters, Merle Haggard wrote and recorded over 100 songs. Many of them got released, and a positive number of them became lasting classics. The primary focus of Merle Haggard's real estate was his Palo Cedro Ranch in Shasta County, California. It is located on the east side of Redding. The ranch was one of Merle's most sentimental purchases. It was more than just a house. It was a place he could go back to after extended periods on the road touring. It was his creative recharge place. He spent most of his last days there and wrote most of his later music in that house. The property reflects Merle Haggard's connection to rural life. His working-class upbringing never really left him. A good thing about having the ranch was that he could maintain his privacy, regardless of his celebrity status. He had all the space he needed to himself and still enjoyed the luxury of reasonable access to centers for business and touring purposes. Residents have shared that Merle's property was located near some former acreage from the neighborhood's ranges. One of his neighbors mentioned that they used to live on Silver Bridge Road and owned 42 acres back in the 60s. Some of their acres cut into Merle's land. This suggests that he acquired the ranch through multiple purchases over time. After he passed away, his ranch became his final resting place. He was laid to rest in a private service in Palo Cedro. His family mourned, but were comforted by the fact that it would have been Merle's wish. Apart from real estate and catalog rights, other personal properties might be considered a small fortune. There was touring equipment, instruments, and a tour bus called Silver Chief. These items were a part of his estate. Merle's income was not always smooth. His finances had been in a state of stress before he found stability through sound financial advice and a few wise decisions. In a 1993 Los Angeles Times profile, it was disclosed that Merle worked extremely hard to combat the recession of that period. In later years, there were more tours, more collaborations, and the financial pressures became nostalgic tales. The current ownership and status of the ranch after the estate settlement are not publicly known, but the property is one with many memories and perhaps many more secrets than one can assume. The Hag is born.
He is the very definition of country music.
Merle Haggard, otherwise known as the Hag, was born on the 6th of April, 1937 in Allendale. It was a small, working-class community near Bakersfield, California. His parents were James Francis Haggard and Flossie Mae Harp. They had moved from a small farm close to Checotah, Oklahoma, because their barn had been burned. They found a home in Bakersfield, and things were rough in the beginning, really rough. At one point, they lived in a converted boxcar. These hardships contributed to Merle's character development. His experiences in such poor conditions influenced the kind of lyrics he wrote in his music. They faced many struggles that followed Merle Haggard from his early years as a young boy to his adolescence. His older brother gave him a guitar when he was only 12. He became enraptured with it and taught himself to play by listening to records and following radio broadcasts. He enjoyed musical genres such as Western swing, honky-tonk, and country music, as well as the musical techniques of Bob Wills, Hank Williams, and Lefty Frizzell. His brother might not have known it at the time, but he had just opened the door for Merle's untapped potential to pour in like a flood. That was the trigger for music. For songwriting, it was something more tragic. When Merle was 9, his father died of a brain hemorrhage. His mother took on steady work to support the family, and the loss of his father left a gaping hole in the family. Nothing ever remained the same after this. In his grief, Merle turned to writing songs. The lyrics would echo emotions like regret and intense feelings of loss. They were direct translations of how he felt regarding his father's passing. As a teenager, Merle was always taking odd jobs. Sometimes he cooked in short-order diners of pitched hay. He could even be found in oil fields. As long as it earned something, he was willing to take the bait. Around the same period, he started breaking the law. He committed petty crimes, such as shoplifting, writing bad checks, and behaving suspiciously outdoors. He found himself in juvenile detention centers regularly because he was too young to be given a prison sentence. On more than one occasion, he and his companions escaped reform schools and lived in towns like Modesto. In these towns, they went to local bars and performed for a small sum. They were not creating mere memories. These were real-life experiences. This was a test of who could withstand the struggle without caving into more heinous vices. Merle did not free himself from his life of crime until an event in 1957. He got convicted for burglary and served a term at San Quentin State Prison. In prison, he got the equivalent of a high school degree and soon began to impress his fellow inmates with his singing. Prison life was not easy. He got influenced by the criminal behavior of other inmates, and solitary confinement did a number on his mental health. He shared most of his experiences in his popular song, Mama Tried. He spoke on the pain his imprisonment caused his mother. His criminal behavior had created a deep sense of sorrow within his mother. The striking grief from the death of their father was enough pain. During this experience, Merle learned a few valuable lessons. He knew how music could humanize people in confinement. He witnessed Johnny Cash performing for the inmates, and it made him realize that music was more than just entertainment. His performance that day tweaked his perspective forever. It also helped him decide to pursue music professionally after his release.
When you say great, you got to put Merle in there. Legend, you got to put Merle.
In 1960, he was released from San Quentin. He returned to Bakersfield and proved his commitment to music. He played honky-tonks, recorded for small labels, and steadily improved as a songwriter. His life after prison now served as a preparatory phase for his time in the music industry. He faced countless dramas and controversies as a country artist and a rebel, but his background and experiences prepared him for the system ahead. In March 1972, Ronald Reagan granted him a full and unconditional pardon for his earlier convictions. The pardon removed formal legal impediments. All traces of his life of petty crime were cleaned. This marked something in Merle's mind. He was a new person to himself and to the law. He was finally closing the cover on a journey. From there on, he would start the long, tedious journey of making it big in music. Making it big in music.
15 years old working with Max Brothers and Rose, and I was 14 playing guitar, and that's what I wanted to do. So, I mean, Roy Nichols was...
After his release from San Quentin in 1960, Merle had difficulties securing a job. His incarceration did not help things. He started digging ditches for his brother's electrical contracting company. Not long after that, he recorded music with Tally Records. It was the music from Bakersfield during that period because a lot of people were making songs about the Nashville sound. His first ever record was Singing My Heart Out. It failed commercially, with only 200 copies pressed. In 1962, it was a sober period for Merle. After making music, he assumed that everything would turn around because more people would hear it. Merle found himself performing at a Wynn Stewart show in Las Vegas, where he heard Wynn's sing a sad song. That song enchanted him. He asked for permission to record it, and this became his first national hit for 1964. The following year, his first national top 10 was My Friends Are Gonna Be Strangers. Liz Anderson wrote it. This was the trigger for his success. He gained mainstream popularity and felt the unrealness of slowly becoming a star. Merle Haggard disclosed that he had not initially wanted to collaborate with Liz, yet he decided to go to her house, and she welcomed them with open arms. Merle had mentally prepared for a boring meeting, but Liz pulled out a bunch of songs for them to make their pick. He was ready to be bored with her songs. Instead, he got disappointed. He later shared that she was a pleasant enough lady, pretty with a nice smile, but Merle was all set to be bored to death, even more so when she got out a whole bunch of songs and went over to an old pump organ. There they were. My God, one hit right after another. There must have been 4 or 5 #1 songs there. Thus began a long, lasting partnership between Haggard and Anderson. He released another album in 1967 called Branded Man, and for the first time in a while, a whole body of work from him was accepted by fans and individuals new to his style of songs. In 2013, Merle's biographer, David Cartwell, disclosed that the immediate successors to I'm a Lonesome Fugitive, Branded Man, and in 1968, Sing Me Back Home, The Legend of Bonnie and Clyde, were among the best albums of their time. He was referring to Merle's music with his band called Strangers. Ralph Mooney could be heard on the track passing his fingers across the strings of his steel guitar. Bonnie Owens provided the harmony vocals. At the time the music was put out, Owens was recognized as a solo performer. She had crafted a position for herself in the Bakersfield club scene. She also appeared on television. She still won the new Academy of Country Music's inaugural award for female vocalist. She put out a lot of great music, but she is popularly known chiefly for her background harmonies on Merle Haggard's Sing Me Back Home. In the 1969 Rolling Stone review for Merle and the Strangers' 1968 album Mama Tried, Andy Wickham wrote, "His songs romanticize the hardships and tragedies of America's transient proletariat, and his success is resultant of his inherent ability to relate to his audience a commonplace experience with precisely the right emotional pitch." In 1969, Haggard and the Strangers released Okie from Muskogee. He sang about his pride in his roots, being from Middle America, a place where people were conventionally patriotic and conservative. The song was widely received so much that the American president at the time, Richard Nixon, invited him to the White House several times to perform the song. As years went by, Merle gave statements about the fan theories spreading like wildfire. People claimed that the song and album title were a form of humorous satire. That looked like an opportunity for trolls to leap in and drag Merle through filth for whatever response he was going to give. In a 2001 interview, Haggard called the song a documentation of the uneducated that lived in America at the time. However, he made several other statements suggesting that he meant the song seriously. On the Bob Edwards show, he said, "I wrote it when I recently got out of the joint. I knew what it was like to lose my freedom, and I was getting furious at these protesters. They didn't know anything more about the war in Vietnam than I did. I thought about how my dad, who was from Oklahoma, would have felt. I felt I knew how those boys fighting in Vietnam felt." He started playing the song in concerts in 1960 and noticed that whenever he played that particular song, the crowd would give a round of applause. Sometimes, the bandmates of the team were caught teary-eyed from the song's melodious tune. The studio version was more mellow than the live concert renditions. It topped the country charts in 1969 and was there for a month. It also hit number 41 on the Billboard All-Genre Singles chart, making it his biggest hit up to that time. It was surpassed only by his 1973 crossover Christmas hit, If We Make It Through December. On his next single, The Fightin' Side of Me, one understands the limitations of record labels. This particular song was released by his label in 1970, regardless of Merle's objections to releasing it. He sang about wanting to be resolute in whatever he chose to stand for. In May 1970, Merle Haggard explained to John Grisham of Rolling Stone, "I don't like their views on life, their filth, their visible self-disrespect, you know."
LSD. We don't burn our draft cards down on Main.
Merle wanted to release Irma Jackson after Okie from Muskogee. Irma Jackson told the story of an interracial romance between a white man and an African-American woman. His producer, Ken Nelson, was not in support of releasing the song as a single. He had attracted a particular audience with the Muskogee song, but Irma Jackson appealed to a different kind of audience. The song was taken to executives to hear their thoughts on the song. They were not interested in messing up the good run Merle had going on at that moment. As long as Merle was raking in the money, they were happy, and that money did not come from being too audacious in expression. They had created this blue-collar, conservative guy image for him, and it just worked. After The Fightin' Side of Me was released instead, Haggard later commented to the Wall Street Journal, "People are narrow-minded. Down south, they might have called me a racial slur." In a 2001 interview, he stated that Nelson, who was also head of the country division at Capitol at the time, never interfered with his music, but this one time he came out and said, "Merle, I don't believe the world is ready for this yet." And he might have been right. I might have canceled out where I was headed in my career. There were moments in his career where it felt like he was torn between having an opinion on his music and shoving it down, because execs think otherwise. Merle appeared on the cover of Time on the 6th of May, 1974. He also wrote and performed the theme song to the television series Movin' On, which in 1975 gave him and the Strangers another #1 country hit. He might not have shown early interest in film, but his acting, like everything he did in music, was excellent. He appeared in an episode of The Waltons titled The Comeback, Season 5, Episode 3, on October 10, 1976. He played a bandleader named Red, who had been depressed since the death of his son. In 1977, he made a much-needed switch to MCA Records and started exploring the themes of depression, alcoholism, and middle age on albums like Serving, Proof, and The Way I Am. Merle sang a duet cover of Billy Burnett's What's a Little Love Between Friends with Linda Carter in her 1980 television music special, Linda Carter, Encore. In 1981, Merle published an autobiography, Sing Me Back Home. The same year, he provided the narration and theme for the movie The Legend of the Lone Ranger. The movie did not perform as well as expected, attributing its commercial failure to the rather/more dispute going on at the time. His autobiography was a quick seller. Who didn't love an impactful grass to grace story? He changed labels again and released his most critically acclaimed album, Big City. At some point in his life, he delved into the use of addictive substances like cocaine. Fortunately, he knew how to quit. Not long after, he won a Grammy for Best Male Country Vocal Performance for his 1984 remake of That's the Way Love Goes. In 1989, Merle made a song called Me and Crippled Give a Damn. It was a response to the Supreme Court's decision not to allow banning flag burning, considering it to be speech, and therefore protected under the First Amendment. CBS Records. Nashville refused to release the song. They thought it to be too controversial. Merle left them to find a record label a little less cowardly. Curb Records was open to releasing the song, so he signed up with them right away. It spoke volumes about his nature, his inability to adapt to the expectations of other people. For a brief period in time, Merle went through a financial squeeze. The pressures of being in the spotlight and having to release music, as the label demands, were taking a toll on him. He took a break and made his comeback by signing with the independent record label Anti and releasing the single, If I Could Only Fly. He followed it in 2001 with Roots, Volume 1, a collection of Lefty Frizzell, Hank Williams, and Hank Thompson covers, along with 3 Haggard originals. In 1983, Merle got permission from Epic Records to collaborate with then-wife Leona Williams on Polydor Records. Together, they created Heart to Heart in 1983. The album, on which the Strangers backed them, was not a hit. It might have been extraordinary for Haggard, but the rest of the world was not in the mood for it. It peaked at number 44 on the charts and was off the charts in a short while. In 2001, he released an album of gospel songs with Albert E. Brumley called Two Old Friends. In 2002, he collaborated with longtime friend and fellow recording artist Chester Smith on a CD titled California Blend. The CD featured classic country, western, and gospel tracks performed by both Smith and Haggard. In 2005, Merle Haggard was featured as a guest vocalist on Gretchen Wilson's song Politically Incorrect. This became Merle's second Grammy nomination, but this time for Best Country Collaboration with Vocals. After this win, Merle continued to release more music and make more beneficial collaborations. By 2017, he appeared alongside Willie Nelson in the award-winning documentary The American Epic Sessions, directed by Bernard McMahon. They performed a song Merle had composed for the film, The Only Man Wilder Than Me, and Bob Wills's classic Old-Fashioned Love. Both songs were recorded live on the restored first electrical sound recording system from the 1920s. Merle continued to do music for as long as he possibly could. It was a skill ingrained in his system. His last recording was a song called Kern River Blues. It described his departure from Bakersfield in the late 1970s and his displeasure with politicians. The song was recorded on the 9th of February 2016 and featured his son Ben on the guitar. This record was released on the 12th of May 2016. Merle Haggard's music continues to speak truth to power many years after he was buried 6 feet under. Personal life. Merle Haggard's personal life was more complicated than his dealings with record labels. Throughout his 79 years of life, he married 5 times. He welcomed 6 children to the world and created what could pass for a musically inclined, almost chaotic, large family. Merle's first marriage began when he was just 19 years old. In 1956, he married Leona Hobbs, and they remained together for 8 years until their divorce in 1964. This union resulted in 4 children: Dana, Marty, Kelly, and Noel. The marriage, unfortunately, occurred during a time when Merle was still struggling with legal issues and trying to navigate his way through the music industry. Sadly, his relationship with Leona ended as soon as Merle's career began to show signs of life. After his divorce, he got right into his subsequent marriage. In 1965, he married Bonnie Owens. Bonnie was the former wife of Buck Owens and was also a singer. The marriage helped both individuals personally and professionally. Bonnie became an integral part of his musical operation. One could say that sometimes she was his muse. Merle credited her one too many times for helping him make his big break as a country artist. She provided background vocals to most of his biggest hits. She also showed love and care to children from his first marriage. Their marriage lasted from 1965 to 1978. This was his longest marriage, 14 years of collaboration and partnership. Despite their divorce, Bonnie kept working with Merle. This revealed a higher sense of maturity between the two and a shared love for the art of music making. His third marriage was to Leona Williams. She wrote some of his #1 hits like You Take Me for Granted and Someday When Things Are Good. Merle Haggard has an appetite for creatively collaborative relationships. Placing two creatives in a marriage could either go really great or really badly. For Leona and Merle, their marriage was turbulent. It lasted only 5 years and ended in 1983. The end of their marriage meant the beginning of a dark period in Merle's life. He began to misuse substances and went through what he calls male menopause. The divorce was his excuse to crash out. He partied and drank. He lived recklessly, and everyone around him did not know how to help. But he dug himself out of his misery and fell in love again. This time, he chose to be more private about his relationship. His fourth marriage details remain less documented, but it became public knowledge when his fourth marriage ended in divorce. He eventually found lasting love, or perhaps the love that lasted till the time of his passing. At the time of his death, Merle Haggard was married to Teresa Lane. They got married in 1993. This marriage proved to be his most enduring and stable, lasting 23 years until he died 2016. Lane bore him 2 more children, Ben and Janessa. His children have been born with lyrical genius in their DNA. Marty Haggard, Ben Haggard, and Kelly Haggard are all musicians who have released their own music and performed on stage. Today, Marty still performs as a tribute to his dad. Ben Haggard, the youngest son born to Teresa Lane, has achieved the most notable success among Haggard's musical children. He has toured extensively and recorded with his father, including on Haggard's final recording, Kern River Blues, where he played guitar. Ben continues to perform and has established himself as a talented musician in his own right. Noel Haggard has also pursued music professionally, building a career as both a performer and recording artist. Janessa Haggard has worked in the music industry as a songwriter and producer. The family faced tragedy when Dana Haggard, the eldest child, passed away. Kelly is often present at family events, especially after they lost their eldest sister. Kelly and Dana were best friends, but after the loss, Dana withdrew more into herself. Dana had worked in the entertainment industry as a makeup artist before her death. Though not much is known about Kelly publicly, she remains close to the family. One thing is sure, Merle Haggard ensured his family lived in unity, showed up for one another, and lacked for nothing. Legacies left behind.
And so many other performers.
Merle Haggard lived a good life. Like all humans, he suffered certain unfortunate situations. He was born into a difficult life, but he turned that around for his good. He never shied away from speaking his truth. When political opponents were attacking the Dixie Chicks for criticizing President George W. Bush's 2003 invasion of Iraq, Haggard spoke up for the band on July 25, 2003, saying, "I don't even know the Dixie Chicks, but I find it an insult for all the men and women who fought and died in past wars when almost the majority of America jumped down their throats for voicing an opinion. It was like a verbal witch hunt and lynching." He knew what it meant or how it felt to be cast down, overlooked, ignored, or accused. It wasn't the most incredible feeling. Nothing would stop him from sharing his truth. He earned formal honors throughout his career. He was inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame in 1994. In 2006, he received the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award. His standing among songwriters was further acknowledged in 2006 when BMI named him a BMI icon, honoring his extraordinary contribution to music publishing and songwriting. The Academy of Country Music, ACM, likewise honored him lavishly. He was their first Entertainer of the Year in 1970, and earlier he had received Male Vocalist of the Year and Most Promising Male Vocalist. This inadvertently earned him the ACM Triple Crown distinction. Over his career, he won around 20 ACM awards, including the Cliffy Stone Pioneer Award and the Poets Award, both designed to celebrate his trailblazing influence. After his death, the ACM created the Merle Haggard Spirit Award. Awards are merely plaques. The intention behind the plaque is to honor. Merle Haggard had more than just awards. He was admired by many. He undertook philanthropic efforts and charitable contributions. While not widely publicized, he did engage in localized giving. Notably, he became involved in a fundraiser connected to a Green Train environmental charity. After his passing, tributes poured in from artists such as Willie Nelson, Dwight Yoakam, Eric Church, Sam Hunt, and Wynonna Judd. The world had lost a star, a fearless man, a man who refused to take number. Merle Haggard's legacy will live on. What are your thoughts on Merle's discography and his rise to stardom? Share your thoughts in the comments. Do not forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel. Before you go, click on the video displayed on your screen.